Please tell me you're not actually wearing that." My mother closed her bedroom door and stared at the garment bag in my hand like I'd brought something offensive into the house. I looked down at it, then back at her. "My dress blues." "Yes, Melani, those." For a second, I thought she was joking. Ethan's wedding invitation said formal attire, and I'd already had my uniform pressed for Saturday. Then my father looked away. That was when I knew she was serious. Mom lowered her voice. "Claire's family is very polished, very connected. They're not really military people." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means just wear a normal dress." Her mouth tightened. "The military thing can be embarrassing in a setting like this." The room went still. I had spent years avoiding conversations about deployments, promotions, medals, anything that might sound like bragging. And now my own mother was asking me to hide the uniform I had earned. What exactly is embarrassing about serving? "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said." Dad finally spoke. "Your mother just doesn't want the medals becoming a conversation piece." Then he added quietly, "Especially the silver star." That hit harder than everything else. My parents knew. I never talked about why I received it. Mom stepped closer. "This is Ethan's day. You have a way of drawing attention without meaning to." I swallowed. "Did Ethan ask you to tell me this?" Neither of them answered immediately. Then Mom said, "He just wants one day that isn't about his sister." I felt something inside me drop. For years, I had made myself smaller around Ethan. I missed birthdays because of deployments. I stopped telling relatives about promotions because they compared us. Once, when Mom wanted to announce an award at Thanksgiving, I begged her not to. I never wanted my brother to feel like he had to compete with me. So when Mom said he was ashamed of the uniform, I believed her. I picked up the garment bag and walked out without arguing. My phone buzzed before I reached the stairs. "Ethan, you better be there early Saturday. I need my big sister." I stopped. "Read it again." Then looked at the uniform hanging from my hand. Because if Ethan truly wanted me hidden at his wedding, why did his message sound like he had absolutely no idea what our parents had just asked me to do? The night before the wedding, Ethan called while I was sitting on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at the garment bag hanging from the closet door. "Still awake?" he asked. "Barely." He laughed. "You always say that like you're 80. For a few seconds, he sounded exactly like my little brother again. No wedding pressure, no family politics, just Ethan. Then he said, "Do you remember when I was 12 and told my whole class my sister was in the army?" I smiled despite myself. "You also told them I could drive a tank." I was 12. Accuracy wasn't my priority. I almost asked him then, "Did you really tell Mom you didn't want me in uniform?" The words were right there. But I stopped myself. His wedding was hours away. If he had really said it, confronting him now would turn the night into something ugly. Then Ethan's voice softened. "You know I'm proud of you, right?" I went still. "Why are you asking me that?" "I don't know, just wanted to say it." That was the first moment Mom's story stopped making sense. I chose my next words carefully. "Does Claire's family have some kind of issue with military people?" There was a pause. "What?" Before I could answer, the hotel room door opened. Mom stepped inside. Her eyes went straight to my phone. "Is that Ethan?" I nodded. She crossed the room immediately. "He needs to focus on tomorrow, Melani." "I'm talking to him." Mom held out her hand. On the phone, Ethan said, "What's going on?" "Nothing," Mom said quickly, taking the phone from me. "Your sister's tired. Go get some sleep." She ended the call before I could stop her. I stood up. "Why did you do that?" "Because you were about to create drama." I asked him one question. Mom folded her arms. "Ethan is too uncomfortable to tell you directly. That's why he asked us to handle it." "Then why did he just tell me he's proud of me?" Her expression tightened. She reached into a shopping bag near the dresser and pulled out a navy evening gown. Expensive, elegant. My size. Claire's mother said she wanted the wedding elegant and understated, Mom said. This is more appropriate. I looked at the dress, then at her. Did Margaret actually mention me? Mom didn't answer. Did she mention my uniform? Nothing. That silence told me more than her explanation did. I picked up the gown, placed it carefully back in the box, and pushed it toward her. Then I walked to the closet, unzipped the garment bag, pulled out my dress blues, and began pinning every authorized decoration exactly where it belonged. By the time I reached the hotel ballroom the next afternoon, 175 guests were already moving between the foyer and ceremony hall. I walked in alone. Dress blues pressed, shoes polished, every decoration exactly where regulations required it, including the silver star. A few conversations near the entrance softened as people noticed me, but I kept walking. Then Mom saw me. Her face changed instantly. She hurried across the foyer and stopped inches from me. I begged you not to do this. Her voice was low but sharp. I know. Dad appeared beside her. His eyes dropped immediately to my chest. Melani, he muttered, at least take off the medals. No. Mom stared at me. You're deliberately making this about yourself. I walked into my brother's wedding wearing a formal uniform. I haven't said a word to anyone. People are starring. That's not something I control. A couple nearby had already gone quiet. Then I saw Ethan coming toward us. Mom saw him too. Her entire expression changed. Ethan, she said, your sister decided not to respect what you wanted. My stomach tightened. This was it. If Mom had been telling the truth, Ethan would confirm it right there. Instead, he looked at my uniform. Then at Mom. What I wanted. Mom's lips parted. Before she could answer, the wedding coordinator rushed toward Ethan. We need you now. The processional is ready. Ethan looked between us, confused, but the coordinator was already pulling him toward the ceremony hall. Melani, don't go anywhere, he said. Then he disappeared through the doors. I spent the ceremony, wondering what those 4 words meant. Afterward, the guests moved into the ballroom for the reception. I entered with the family. An older man, several tables away, looked toward me. His eyes settled on my decorations. He stopped talking. Then he stood. At another table, a second man rose. Then a woman from Claire's side. Another veteran stood near the back. Then another. Within seconds, 9 people scattered among the 175 guests were standing. The ballroom fell strangely quiet. One of the men, an older retired Army colonel, looked directly at me. Silver star in the room. Mom froze. Dad's face went blank. The veterans understood what my parents had wanted hidden. And now everyone was looking. Ethan stepped toward me, then turned slowly toward our parents. His expression hardened. Why did Mom tell Melani that I was ashamed of her? Mom didn't answer. For the first time all weekend, she seemed to have nothing prepared. Ethan looked from her to Dad. I asked you a question. Claire crossed the ballroom toward us, having heard enough to realize something was wrong. Ethan turned to me. Melani, what exactly did they tell you? I could feel people watching, but I wasn't going to turn his wedding into a shouting match. So I gave him only the facts. They said you wanted me to hide my uniform because the military embarrassed Claire's family. Claire stopped beside him. My family never said that. There it was. Ethan's phone call suddenly made sense. His confusion when I asked about Claire's family, Mom interrupting us, the navy gown already purchased in my exact size, Dad refusing to name the person who supposedly had a problem with me. Mom lifted her hands. This has gotten completely out of proportion. I was trying to protect the wedding. From what? Ethan asked. Before she could answer, another voice came from behind Claire. "Diane." Margaret, Claire's mother, had approached. Mom's face tightened. Margaret looked between us. "Why is my family being mentioned?" Claire explained what Mom had claimed. Margaret's expression changed immediately. "I never said anything about Melani's uniform." Mom tried to interrupt. "You said you wanted things elegant and understated." "I was talking about the reception decorations." Silence. "Not Melani, not the army, not anyone's military service." Ethan exhaled slowly. Mom had taken one harmless comment and built an entire lie around it. Dad stepped forward. "Maybe everyone should calm down." Ethan turned on him. "No, nobody asks my sister to leave. Nobody asks her to change. This ends now." The 9 veterans were still standing. I finally turned toward them and gave a quiet acknowledgement. Only then did they begin sitting down. A few other guests who had realized what was happening rose briefly as well. Mom could no longer pretend. No one understood what she had tried to hide. Then the retired colonel looked at me again. Not at the medal this time. At my face. "Major Carter." I nodded. His eyes narrowed with recognition. "I know that name." He turned toward Ethan. "Your sister." "Wait." Ethan stopped him. Then he looked directly at me. "Is this about what happened during your deployment?" I looked at Ethan. For years, I had avoided this conversation. Not because I was ashamed of the silver star, but because explaining the medal meant explaining the day behind it. "Yes," I said quietly. "It's about the deployment." Ethan's expression changed. The retired colonel stepped back, letting me decide how much to say. "Our unit came under attack while personnel were moving through an exposed area," I told Ethan. "We had wounded people who needed to get out, and the evacuation routes had to be coordinated while everything was still happening." Claire moved closer to Ethan. I kept my voice steady. "I went back into exposed areas more than once. We got people to safety. Lives were saved." Ethan stared at the medal on my chest. "And that's why you received it." I nodded. "The silver star." Mom looked down. Dad said nothing. I had never hidden the story because I thought there was anything embarrassing about it. I kept it private because some memories belonged to the people who had lived through them, not to every relative who wanted an impressive story at Thanksgiving. And I hated being turned into a family trophy. Ethan rubbed a hand across his face. Then he looked at Mom. "You knew what that medal was for." "Ethan." "You knew." Mom started to answer, but Ethan shook his head. Then he looked at me. "There's something you don't know." I waited. "A few weeks ago, I told them I hoped you'd wear your blues." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. "What?" "I told Mom and Dad specifically." Ethan pointed toward them. "I said I wanted you in uniform because I wanted a formal picture with my big sister." My eyes went to Mom. She couldn't look at me. Claire nodded. "He told me too. He was excited about it." That was the final piece. Ethan had never been ashamed of me. He had wanted the exact thing my parents begged me to hide. Mom finally spoke. "I was trying to make a good impression." "On whom?" Claire asked. Mom looked toward Margaret. Margaret's face hardened. Mom admitted she had worried my decorated military uniform would clash with the polished image she wanted our family to present to Claire's wealthy relatives. Margaret's comment about keeping the wedding elegant and understated had given her an excuse. Dad finally confessed he knew Ethan had never asked me to change. He had gone along with Mom because he didn't want another argument with her. Ethan stared at him. "You let Melani believe I was ashamed of her because you didn't want to argue with Mom." Dad muttered, "It was poor communication." "No," Ethan said. "Poor communication is forgetting to pass along a message. You lied to both of us." Mom flinched. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Then he spotted the photographer. "Can we get that picture now?" The photographer approached. Ethan held out his hand to me. "Come on." I stood beside him in my dress blues. Claire stepped beside us. Mom started moving toward the photograph. Ethan quietly said, "Just the three of us for this one." She stopped. The camera flashed. For once, nobody asked me to remove anything. Later, the 9 veterans introduced themselves privately. There was no spectacle, no speeches, just handshakes, brief words of respect, and the quiet understanding of people who knew what the decoration represented. Margaret also pulled Mom aside. "Do not use my name to justify insulting your daughter again." The wedding continued, but my parents no longer controlled the story. In the weeks afterward, Ethan and Claire reduced contact with them. Ethan made it clear that rebuilding the relationship required accountability, not excuses. I made changes too. I stopped attending family gatherings, where the price of admission was pretending my career mattered less than everyone else's comfort. Eventually, Mom apologized. I accepted that she had apologized. But I didn't return to the old arrangement. Forgiveness didn't mean giving her permission to make me smaller again. Months later, Ethan framed the wedding photograph. Him in his tuxedo, Claire beside him, and me in my dress blues, the silver star visible on my chest. I kept another copy in my home. Ethan and I also made one rule permanent. If something important involved either of us, we spoke directly. No messages through Mom, no assumptions, no letting someone else define what we supposedly thought about each other. My parents had entered that wedding believing they could control how our family appeared to 175 guests. Instead, 9 veterans stood up and exposed exactly what my parents had tried to make me hide. And I walked away knowing something far more important than whether strangers respected my uniform. My brother did. And so did I. My parents asked me to hide the uniform because they were afraid of what people would think. But when 9 veterans stood up, I finally understood that the only thing I had ever needed to hide was how small my family had taught me to make myself.